Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. Here we are, and we were just talking before we started about a press thing I went to last night, I think it was, about high altitude aircraft over Europe, the UK in particular, beaming down standard cell phone signals to the population, 60 of them to be stationed over the UK above 50,000 feet, but below 66,000 feet, which will mean something to a few people. My takeaway was that the era of the hydrogen-powered aeroplane was quite interesting. 9 days orbit, 60 aircraft required, with a further 3 to 2. Oh, I should have thought about that. For every one that's in the air, there's another 2. One on the ground being fixed and one ready to go. That's what they needed to make this work. So it'd be 180 aircraft to service the UK. But the antenna was the thing that amazed me, they showed graphics of it. Making transmit receive corridors down highways and things like that. All very, very clever shaping and this and that and the other. So
how do you keep that much string damp at that altitude?
Well, yes. Well, one of the interesting, they were pretty candid with what they said. They're talking about how cooling is an issue with no atmosphere up there to help with the cooling, or very little atmosphere up there, and all sorts of other things. So it was very, very interesting. So have a look at that. I'll have to see if I can make a video I tried to record it and the questions. But it was one of those things where I was in the room with people from Flight Global and the BBC and ITV and all that sort of thing. It's like, why am I here? but there we are. But it was very, very interesting, and I can't see how they'll get permission for those high altitude orbits if something goes wrong. I can't see it. I throw it open to the floor.
The floor's not saying anything.
Right.
It's on strike. Yeah, no, I remember seeing at the UK drone show commercial drone show about 2 years ago, some hydrogen aircraft, some very large ones, and there was talk about this is the future. But it's like all of these things, isn't it? There's always a lot of promises, and you always, especially from a quad point of view, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I think from a plane potentially, but from a quad, there's this massive quad there that they said was flying, and I just looked at this thing and thought, it's so big, it's so heavy. Why? There's just no logic to that. In a plane, it's a slightly different animal. But
well, I thought
and then it's
Go on, Mark.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, and then it's the handling and the refueling of the hydrogen. If you've got a multi-rotor, the pressure bar needed to refill hydrogen stuff is incredible. I personally wouldn't want to handle an aircraft that's got hydrogen for a multi-rotor. Just wouldn't want to do it. Even fixed wing, it'd be a big aircraft.
747 size wings. 747 size thing. It is 660 of them over the UK, and then the guy from the BBC, Rory Helen Jones, or wherever he sat, he made a very fair point, because they're saying they're up and ready to go by 2023. He said, well, hang on a minute, all those cell phone companies have already made their plans for rollout for 5G for 2023. They're not going to stop the bus just because you're going to stand up this new facility. It's all done and dusted. But I suspect the antenna was the secret sauce. It did look very, very clever, and I suspect that people are, even in their wavy davy, I suspect that there'll be military folks lining up to buy into this technology for various reasons that aren't 5G cell phones. Oh, and an interesting thing is that they said that the World Radio Council had cleared part of the 5G spectrum for perhaps drones, which I didn't realize. I'd missed that, so I'm going to have to look into. I don't know if you spotted that along the way, Bruce, but apparently there's a bit of 5G spectrum's been set aside for perhaps drones. Who knows?
Yeah, I sent you that paper about the 5G allocation for drone, the discussion paper for New Zealand.
For New Zealand, yeah,
some 5G space. Yeah.
But I didn't think that had gone through. I didn't think anybody.
No, it's a discussion paper at this stage, but obviously maybe it's based on the recommendations.
Maybe it is. But of course, the Thiel Group in America, or the Thiel Company, I'm not sure it's the Thiel Group, Peter Thiel's companies anyway, are making a pretty predatory bid for the military 5G or 5 gigs, I should say, rather than 5G allocation in America. So there's some spectrum grabs going on right now whilst the current regime's in power, because he's very pro that regime. So it'd be interesting to see how that shakes out, because that'll have implications around the world, even in Ethel. And the other thing is the plethora, I've just posted one now, a plethora of UTM standards. And of course, flipping Canada, what they called it, I'm going to have to go back to, they've changed the name, haven't they? It's RTM, another flipping RPAS traffic management. Keep up, everybody. RTM. So Canada's RTM selections going on, and there's loads of different standards.
What does UTM stand for? Because Richard says it's unified traffic management, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, yes, that's right. I think Richard's quite clever in that regard, isn't he? Because, of course, it would be unifying all the boats and cars and trains and planes and all the other bits of a modern digital world. You know, that package doesn't just arrive out of that delivery drone out of nowhere. It's got to the place where it's flown from. So if you're part of that whole chain, then surely that's clever. But yeah.
Interestingly, there is a UK CAA podcast on that kind of stuff as well, and they were saying about, you know, the standards are being set at the minute and stuff. I should dig out the link really for you, shouldn't I?
Yeah, well, and the RID thing, I think mainstream modelling media, MSM, has begun to notice RID, and they're saying, I'm beginning to see stuff out of the AMA saying, "Oh, it could even be in by next year." It's like, yeah, it's ready to go. So it'll be very interesting. Why is Ian being probed by an alien? Well, Ian, would you fancy answering that? You better put your microphone on.
I'm being probed by an alien. What?
Well, it does look like there's something behind you. That I see what he's saying. There's behind you, the giant fly.
I thought it was just the smile on his face. The smile on his face was giving it away.
I was just going to say, no. Is it the rod? That's that side. It could be the rod on that side. That's a camera mount sticking out of the shelf. It's quite far back, actually. It's perspective. If you're talking about being probed anywhere else, sorry, that's for my other channel, which I don't actively talk about before midnight.
Well, it's midnight somewhere, isn't it? Definitely midnight.
Yeah, that one's for subscribers only.
Does the chair get included in that channel?
Couldn't possibly comment. Paying subscribers only.
So, Nicola, what have we've had some more flying videos from you. What have you been up to, Nicola?
Well, finally managed to finish up the airloader video and actually made it public today. Oh, and now moving on to installing the autopilot and a few other goodies which I might be testing on it, the new Dragon Link system and the some AKK video transmitters. Might as well go all out.
It's fun. The life of a reviewer.
Yeah. Well, in this plane, see what it can actually do. Might put on one of them antenna tracker modules and send it out. Would be interesting. Just have to keep in mind not to throttle down.
Never slow down. Never, ever slow down.
And maybe an 8x8 prop. That one seems to be a rather good one.
Oh, dogs barking, wondering what they're doing. So I'm just looking quick look through the headlines. It's all about UTM this week so far. Really, not all about, but there's trouble afoot. There's trouble ahead. I I'm not sure how they didn't really see had an OnlyFans site. Yes.
I'm going to be very careful what I say. I'm going to say nothing else and move it along. Yeah, it's been a weird week, hasn't it? It's so I've been away for 1 or 2 days, and I literally have only got back an hour or so ago myself. I've been traveling, probably the last time for a little bit of time. I was allowed to again, and now I've stopped again, ironically. There's not been a lot outside of, as you say, everyone's sort of on hold for seeing what's happened. There's not really been a lot of news. There's been some updates from Autel. I've been digging a little bit on this Skydio thing, and the more I dig, the more I'm finding stuff I don't particularly like, if I'm honest.
Are you talking about the hour, like a 1 year's delivery time, and things like that?
More stuff coming to light, the more you sort of dig into it. You know, Skydio's website is currently saying delivery within 2 months, yet on the Facebook group, people are now getting their orders they placed in October 2019, 1 year later. And it's not one person. There's 10, 15 posts, people going, here, I've got it. It finally arrived, 1 year wait. There's also been an interesting case that sort of backs up some of my concerns on the warranty. That, like all warranties, and this isn't specific to Skydio, but they're only worth the paper they're written on. There's enough terms and conditions in them to get out of jail. And there's a gentleman who had a scenario where it hit a little branch, nothing spectacular, but because he was flying it over a main road, they've refused the warranty claim. Now, that was always going to be the case at some point. You know, if you're going to produce a product that is revolutionary, which it is, and can be used in places that you've never been able to do things with it before, people are going to do things that push your warranty conditions to the limit. And they're probably...
Was it because after hitting the little branch, it fell on the road and got run over by a semi or something?
I think it got damaged. The camera wasn't quite right. But part of his complaint, and this is an interesting aspect, was they advised him to send it in, which he did. They offered a repair. They've said they're not covering it. The repair is going to be between $200 and $800. And he said, no, I'll have it back. And they're saying they have to return it back in pieces. They can't return it back as he sent it in, which is a bit distasteful, to say the least, isn't it? From a manufacturer, you don't expect it to come back in a bag of bits. I've delivered lawnmowers to people in the past with problems and had them back in bits. But yeah, so there's some interesting stuff. You know, the more I've dug, the more stuff I found, which you sort of it takes the shine off the product a little bit at the moment. And we all know there's going to be growing pains. That's the reality of any company. But I think they need to answer what the score is with this website thing. Is it 2 months or is it 12 months? Because that's not a small delay by any means, is it? If you ordered something and you were told 2 months and it took 3, you'd probably be a little bit annoyed, but you'd put up with it. If it took 4, you'd be, really? You couldn't have told us? 12? It's a long time. It's a very long time.
Well, yeah, and they're not going to be able. Well, are they going to be able to play the COVID card again? David Walters in the comments have said they need an Ofcom license to fly it in the UK. I've just quickly invited him via Facebook if he's still here to unpack that a little bit. I'm not quite sure which bit of kit on it wouldn't be licensable.
Well,
in the UK.
It's not CE certified, so you'd have to have license. There's no CE certification, therefore you'd have to have an independent certification for the aircraft. However, my understanding, and I don't know how accurate this was, but the Evo 2 was in the same position. There's a CE mark on it, but no one has been able to show me the paperwork for that to this day. And we all know what CE marks can mean.
What is it that people say it means?
Chinese export, isn't it?
Chinese export. That's it.
It's so, but no, Skydio is not CE certified. But I've not gone looking for some of this stuff. It's just sort of crept up, and there's been some, as people have received their orders this week, what I've noticed is the Facebook group has come alive a bit. That's the nature, because it's been very quiet. And then the more time you sort of spend on there, you sort of think things are not well at all overall. That's a long time to wait. And how are you going to go from 12 months to 2 months in 2 months? Is perhaps there's a big fall off in orders. That's a reasonable thing to have happened. There's that initial buzz of launch. So you're going to have all of those orders from that initial period. And then everything after that could be a tenth of the size of that original pool. So it is possible once they get past that initial pool, they will catch up quickly. But I don't know. I think that's a vast difference. 12 months is a very, very long time.
Well, we've said it all along, hasn't it? We only think there's one company properly that can probably fulfill the orders today for its gear.
Still only one. No, let's be honest. There's two. Parrot deliver as well. I could buy an Anafi.
No, Parrot. No, they're the only one.
Oh, yeah, from the commercial, from the Blue UAS. Yes.
Yeah. Of that group. Sorry, yes, I should have qualified that. Of that Blue SUS group. I think there is only one that's going to be able to deliver.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think the product's amazing. I think the product's fantastic. I just, when you begin into these are user reports at the end of the day. These aren't reports from people. You always get this where people going, this person's for, this person's DJI. These are people posting their own experience. Feedback on the aircraft is okay. It's, there was an interesting poll on there. Only 35 people completed it, which I found was interesting. But of the 35, 30 said it was decent. They didn't say it was the best thing since sliced bread, but they said they were happy with their purchase. They didn't regret it, but it needs some improvements. So feedback is good, but is that enough? It's a good drone enough to wait 12 months, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? When you want something, is that enough to make you wait that long? That's the question.
Well, especially when the newly leaked DJI thing, which still to be released, isn't it? The one
Wednesday.
You can actually buy.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean that's a lot of drone for the price, isn't it? Compared to the Skydio.
It changes the game in the sense of it fits the market right now absolutely perfectly. It's give them their credit with its due. They know where to put a product at the right time, and that's believed to, the price people have paid was sub $500, I think it was.
Yeah.
10, it's got the bits that people look out for. We all know you're not allowed to fly beyond visual line of sight, yet we all want a drone with 10 kilometers range. Nicola's the ultimate test of these things. The man lives for it. But if you take ready to fly stuff, we all know is visual line of sight, yet we want it with the greatest range, and that's what they've added. It hasn't got object avoidance. Really, how many people use that stuff? If I'm completely honest, I got 3 aircraft here with it. Probably not one occasion in the last 2 years have I needed object avoidance. So
that's exactly what Henri said about the on the Blue SUS thing. He said no, the pilots must fly them.
Most drones are either holiday tools. People take them on holiday. That's why there's so many littered across Greece, Spain, on the beaches. And the divers. They're holiday tools, or most people get bored of camera drones really quick. And the people who don't get bored of camera drones really quick either want to put a long range antenna on it and see how far they can fly, see how they can fly, modify it, and do all of that stuff, or they're commercial operators. Let's be honest, a camera drone isn't a fun thing to do after the first flight. You've done a flight. Oh, that was okay. That's how it handles. That's it. Game over. Unless you've got something pretty to film, that's it.
Well, Abdullah, so I was just seeing in the comments, pull up a sandbag, old bean, getting into drones in South Africa. Just be very, very, very wary of the flight schools that are going to rip your arm off for 25,000 Rand for your training, because once you have your commercial license here, you then need to either fly for a company with your remote pilot's license, or you need to get a remote operator certificate. A remote operator certificate will cost you about 300,000 Rand. You need a minimum of 3 people in your company, because you're not allowed to hold all the positions. And it must be, of course, 51% BEE company. So it's really, really restrictive. to ship is a really expensive exchange rate. I know. I'm in KZN, Abdullah. So I know it's expensive. So yeah, I'm not the bearer of good news there. Really, just be very careful, and you're very welcome to PM me offline, as it were, as they say, as the young people say.
Christopher's got an interesting point, innit? Have you seen that? He says, "Is it if you've got to wait a year for a piece of tech, is it still relevant?" I think probably what we should say is, we're a year later and they are still ahead of everyone else. That says a lot for what they can do. Do you know what I mean? But yes. I still stand here of, is it something everyone wants? And that's the problem. You know, you can have the best feature in the world, but if no one really uses it or wants it or needs it,
well, you can't get to it. That's the thing, isn't it? The feature you want to get to is that scene mapping, and you can't get to it because you can get I can't remember what is it, 24 megapixel camera. The camera isn't particularly great, is it? Whatever it is,
4K, and wasn't it something like 6 gigs? He did Adam, fair play to him, when he was on, he gave the number and it was some horrendous amount of data. It was 6 gigs a minute or something like that.
Yeah.
And it could even have been 6 gigs a second. I think it only have like 3 or 4 seconds of that 3D data on the aircraft because of that very fact. But the actual the camera which you might use for mapping, for instance, they're not particularly spectacular. 12 megapixel, 1/4.3 inch sensor, standard stuff. You know, Simon saying about the OcuSync, that's a deal breaker. That's what DJI have very cleverly done here. Sub $500, OcuSync 2.0, 31 minutes flight time, 4K. It's allegedly
a lot cheaper than the Helios. Exactly.
You could lose 3 a day in a commercial operation and not care. You know, it's
talking of commercial operations, trying to be a professional segue there. Here's Louis joining us live from Brazil. Have you flown yet, Louis? Twice?
No, I flew on a buggy on the dunes nearby on touristical rides.
Not flown. So how's the paperwork? I can't. No, I can't.
How did we get Louis' job?
I'd rather not comment. So tomorrow is a day to get my COVID tests to get back to Europe.
Oh, there's such a lovely vacation in Brazil. While it's European, have you been there? A month?
A month and something.
And a month and something. And LinkedIn user saying any news on the Autel Evo 2 getting on the blue SCS list? It'll never get on the list. It's made in China. It'll never get on the list. And we have heard the next iteration of the list will come out between 3 and 5 years. So saying something is made in the USA is absolutely meaningless. Absolutely meaningless. Go on.
About that, have you guys noticed that the list also includes the PX4 flight stack? So someone like, let's say, FreeFly, which uses PX4, could get in the list.
No, it can't. No, it can't, because it's a complete system that gets you on the list. It's a little bit of sleight of hand. It's a little bit of sleight of hand saying it's using PX4, therefore anything that uses PX4 can get on the list. It's end to end the aircraft.
I'm not sure. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just the brother of a lawyer. And
I saw one in a bar once.
My uncle's mate's wife told me.
Exactly.
Now that aligns with something, Louis. Sure. That aligns with a post that I saw which vanished, and I can't find this. This was posted on Twitter saying exactly what you're saying there about FreeFly Systems using systems from the A company, which I'm no longer going to say because I'm not promoting them. That
you can say PX4 and
PX4 Enterprise. systems that are Blue UAS compliant, and then I vanished. Now I can't figure out if Twitter hidden it from me or was the post taken down. That is the question.
Boy, nothing like a good conspiracy theory, is it? That's a good conspiracy theory. But no, the bottom line, Louis, the bottom line is it's entire aircraft, and the list is the list. It's currently 5 airframes, and that's that. The group that made it have said the next selection period will be in 3 to 5 years.
Louis, are we saying that the people that write these kinds of things are dumb and do on a constantly evolving competitive landscape?
Hotel internet strikes again.
But it's not. But it's
the
not.
Brazilian internet comes in little chunks.
To one system or 5 systems for 5 years. Come on, Gary.
The military does. The military would. The military will commit to 10 years worth of orders, and that'll be that on in those open-ended recurrent ordering things.
Toddlers. We know a little better than that. So,
well, hopefully I'm wrong. But already, what are we 1 year into this? No, we're not a year into it. What 6 months into this?
I'd say that we might have surprises, and if Ian saw it on his Twitter, and try DuckDuckGo to find it on Twitter, Ian, you might get lucky.
DuckDuckGo.
I'm looking again now for stuff, so I'm looking through this Blue website to see what it says, because at the moment they are very much putting these 5 aircraft up as the Blue. These are the Blue UAS that are available today. Now, obviously, this PX4 Enterprise is very much saying it's Blue UAS compliant. I've seen posts with that. Now, I've seen other people say those words as well, but there is more to this than meets the eye. There really is more than this that meets the eye.
No, there's less than this. There's less than this that meets the eye. Only 5 companies went through the trial process, and they're the 5 companies that got having been assessed, got the got the go ahead. That's the bottom line.
I'm not so sure of that, Gary. I'm not seeing that they're getting stuck with 5-year-old technology.
Well, if you look at the specification for that trial, it wasn't too huge a specification, and it was it 2013? Go on, say again, Louis. Oh, the Brazilian internet. Still, he'll be back in Europe next week. He's gone, isn't he?
I really hope so. It depends on the COVID test that I'm going to do tomorrow.
I hope you've studied for it.
Yeah, I was studying. Yeah, I've studied a lot, and also got my examination tips from the CAA letters that they sent to you.
We have a new Minister of Transport now, so who knows what will happen.
Now, this is interesting. I'm reading this. Now, there is an article here, and this is all about the wording. And this article is on this PX4 Enterprise-based company. And what it says is the US government's decision to standardize on PX4 Mavlink for small unmanned reconnaissance drones as part of the Blue UAS architecture. Now, that can be taken 2 ways. You could either say PX4 is compliant, or the drones are all using PX4. But that doesn't mean every PX4 aircraft has automatically gets through the doors, doesn't it? So I think
Skydio based on PX4?
Yeah.
No.
I thought this actually was, wasn't it?
I didn't think they were in the end. I thought they moved away from it.
Of course they're not.
I thought they had their own. I thought they had their own thing.
It really depends a lot. For instance, Parrot does not run PX4. At least Yanafi does not run PX4, but they can speak Mavlink.
Yes.
So what kind of compliance is it required for that? If it's NavLink, easy.
There's more to this as well. There's more. It's the ground station that's certified, not PX4.
There's some MAVLink.
It's Q ground control and MAVLink.
Yeah, so there you go.
PX4 isn't yet, and this was in August, continuing with work of the incorporation into PX4 into the Blue UAS architecture.
Well, so I feel so happy. I got something for Ian on his confinement to do. Go.
Hey, I'm coming out of confinement. The rest of it's David and his lot. Where is he? Dave just sent me a message on the Skydio thing. It's Dave and his lot that are going in. I'm heading out. I'm partying.
I see that they're setting up things to stop English people running away to Wales.
That'd be a first.
I'll be there with my picket, with my post, cursing. Flying drones, dropping bags of poo.
All the attack lambs lined up on the border, ready to pounce.
Tactical lambs, we call them, Bruce. They're not attack lambs, they're tactical lambs. Tactical mutton, to be clear.
As of Thursday, you won't be model flying either, because they're saying all model flying sites are shut.
In Wales,
in the UK, all model flying as well.
In England,
and
model
here
flying
we just carry on. We just carry on as usual. But we've had a couple of instances where people in isolation have given isolation workers an infection, and those isolation workers have then gone out into the community. So I'm predicting bad things for Christmas around here, because what's going to happen is there's always this trickle of infection comes from the isolation centres into the workers, and we're going to have a Wuhan Christmas, a Wuhan New Year, where those workers then go spend time with their families and they travel around the country, and by the New Year we're going to have a massive amount of infections breaking out right throughout the country. The only way they can stop that is to close the borders for the next 2 months, so because all our infectious cases come over the borders, and there's already complaints about how effective this isolation is. So unless they close the borders, I'm predicting quite an outbreak, and we'll get another lockdown early in the new year.
God, I guess any island nation has a bit of an advantage there, really, doesn't it? I mean, here in Africa, we've got many countries that border us. But if you're an island nation, say just off Europe, you have the opportunity to close down travel to other places. You would think any island nation would be very, very well placed to contain this sort of thing.
No, we have humans. Humans live here, and humans can't behave themselves. So no, it doesn't matter if you're an island state or not.
What about Ireland? It's an Irish island state. That would be even better, wouldn't it? An island that is Ireland.
David, if it involves a dress, then yes.
If it's got humans on it, then we're just...
Ian,
is that a dress
list of the Blue SUAS up, please? Graviton Defy Gravity requires it, but he doesn't need it because he can defy gravity. Ian was looking at it. I can never. When I search for it, I can never find it quickly. But Ian's good at finding material quick, and talking when without his microphone on.
He has good Google foo.
He does have good Google food, because it's the chair that helps him, What is the chair? It's secret something, isn't it? Secret loud.
Only someone had reviewed it. I think someone reviewed it with affiliate links in the description.
Yeah, give it a bad review with links. That's how you make money, ladies and gentlemen. Give a product bad review with links. That's how you know it's a genuine YouTuber, when you give it a bad review with links. That's how you do it.
Have you got that link for us now?
Please you've disturbed me now, so let me just find it.
Good.
Sorry,
yeah. So there's lots of skullduggery going on in the world. Remote ideas coming. UTMs are being happening. Well, Dave's in the comments. Dave, join in. Dave is the man with UTM, RTM, and all these other good things. I'd really like to know the state of play for early next year. What else have we seen?
Well, the UTM systems are quite interesting, because at the minute in the UK, there's Project Arrow, which I think David's involved in, isn't he? I think that's the Guardian Angel one, isn't it?
Yeah, okay, yes, that'll be him then, yeah.
Yeah, so Project Arrow, and they're doing what is it? I can't remember. Is it 8 kilometres or something? It's not far, is it? It's just a short stint across a motorway.
Trebuchet sort of range again. Trebuchet range, yeah.
Yeah. It's not a problem to do. And then there's another company doing the NHS testing runs, and they're doing 20 kilometres. But from what I understand, they're doing 20 kilometres without any infrastructure, yet the Guardian Angel 1 has got infrastructure. Because it has 3 towers spread across, and each tower has a detection type system. So it has an RF detector, cameras on it, so it can see something and go, that's a drone, or that's a bird, or whatever.
Why don't they just hire Nicola? Just hire Nicola. He's done it all before. I give him all the tips and tricks and things and sort it out for them. Have them flying in no time.
Yeah. To be honest, to fly 10K is not hard, is it? We all know that. And if you want to go further, it's not hard.
I think it's probably very difficult, and I can't imagine ever doing such a thing. I can't believe anyone.
At least not without a lot of deaths and carnage along the way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they're still.
See, Nicola's skill is that he's able to hide the bodies so effectively.
Drops them off a plane.
I mean,
there's a mountain covered in bodies somewhere and an airplane.
That's how he covers them.
I mean, the biggest issue at the minute is just the regulator. As soon as that hurdle's jumped, then, it'll be all right. But...
Is that post going in I've put in? I keep posting it. I don't know if my YouTube's playing up.
Have you got a link in it? You can't post links.
You can't post links in the chat.
Only an administrator. Gary can make you an administrator.
I'll post it to you, Gary.
Can I make him an administrator? How do I do that?
I've put it in the private chat, Garth. There you go.
Other streamers do it.
Yeah, other streams have read the instructions.
all right.
Other streams I've seen even worry about bit rates going into things and multiple cameras and all sorts of other things. So that's the Blue S. Have I just reposted that? What a clown! I've just reposted it straight back into where it came from. Right, there we are. You see, so professional. Yeah. I spent seconds preparing for this. Not even that long. Yeah, there we go. So that's the official Blue SUS list, and they were people that went for an army contract and got it, and they're the ones that if you're in America, you can fly over federal land, because, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's the bottom line. If you're not one of those, you can't fly over federal land. I don't care. I never fly over federal land, you say. You do if you do building. And
Air Force bought how many DJI drones last week or the week before? It was this week. There's been a headline. They've bought something like 70 odd in the last month or so. I think it was.
Are they just shooting them down though?
I would direct your attention to the Australian forces as well, who have also bought shed loads of them.
And Japan's banned them.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, Japan's also moving forward. They put that on the table last year, and DJI's won a ban in Japan now as well. And in fact, David is on the case of asking some, because I can't actually find an official in English Japanese press release for that. And David knows a person in Japan.
Can we get Brendan Schulman on here to give us a bit of a chat about DJI's perspective on all this and how it's affecting their business?
Perhaps not. Feeling.
Has he dealt with you before?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, he's always very fair. No.
Brendan's a good guy.
Fair.
Brendan is
always very fair and always very friendly. But I doubt very much. In fact, all the guys from DJI have always been very fair and very friendly to me, even though we are the outfit that give them a hard time. But yeah, they've been very fair. I can't say too, but they may not be as fair soon, because things have been more interesting things are about to come out, I think, from what I believe. So watch this space, as they say, and all these good things, and hopefully I'll be able to have a video up to say some more about that later. But yeah, it seems the Five Eyes and everybody are coming together eventually. And also today in America, another, I can't remember how it works now, Congress or something. One of the groups said, oh, no, let's not be too hasty. And another group now in government is saying, no, please be hasty, and want to enforce it even harder. And we must remember that all this started before the current administration got into power. It's not as simple as just blaming them. This has been in play for a long time. But at the end of the day, DJI still make, dare I say, the best product out there? I suppose I must.
So people just tune in 5 minutes, because Gary said that he would disclose the news later. So in 5 minutes, Gary will give you an allegedly news until it can go on the record. So he would.
In the meantime,
allegedly.
A word from our sponsor,
DJI. Brendan, here you go.
No, Ridge Wallet. No. So I've been watching too many computer channels the last week. It'll be Ridge Wallet, China's Dollar Shave Club. One of them have got to do. Dollar Shave Club have got to sponsor this. There's 6 handsome. Look at Nicola, right? Nicola should be doing the adverts for Dollar Shave Club, because look at that face. It's fantastic. The Nicola is that. I'm not sure where we will go with Gary. That's not Dollar Shave.
Totally manscaped, Nicola. Totally manscaped. We don't want to see any more. That's enough.
Too bad I don't need shavers of that sort.
It's.
That's not the adverts I'm getting. It's for like beard glue and all that sort of thing. That's a nonsense.
We're going to have to move platforms soon, eh?
Yeah, we're gonna
hub.
We're gonna have to. What's going on with YouTube this week? There's something going on, isn't there? This week.
Is this?
It's still rubbish.
Yeah.
Well, fuck
going on?
that. Yeah. No, I thought I saw something. Oh, it might have been an email. I can't remember.
Well,
there's always something going on.
There's quite a few, because obviously with the younger children that we have kicking around here, they watch the children's YouTube channels, and quite a few of them are bailing onto their own platforms with subscription models. I'm not really sure how long that's going to last, but I can think of 3 of them in the last week that have done that. Come and join us here, there, or wherever. So YouTube's going to have to quickly fill the void, isn't it? But between lots of user-generated content and really expensive professional stuff, and Netflix. Oh, I know what's happening here. We'll come to that in a second. That Netflix and stuff is commissioning, and the BBC. I'm not sure YouTube can actually compete with outfits like that.
They've got Ian's content.
Oh yeah,
that's the problem, Bruce. I think. Sorry, Mark.
Oh, I was going to say, YouTube has sold, because YouTube made Cobra Kai, didn't it? The Karate Kid spin-off, in the later years. Netflix has literally made that series, and it's now on Netflix. Yeah. And they've got the original films as well. It's actually not a bad TV show. But I don't see how they can compete. It's just, no.
If you look at eBay could be a good indicator where this will end up. If you look at eBay started as the place we all put our crap we didn't want, or that was broke, that we wanted to sell and say it was fine. Well, everyone else
never buy anything off Ian.
Everyone else said that, but you know what I mean. eBay used to be, and then eBay made a strong decision a few years ago to turn it into the store with dealers, and they wanted it to be more legitimate and things like that.
The American AliExpress.
Yeah, and that's where you sort of, I can see YouTube going at some point. They're no longer catering for the likes of me. Bruce is where it's at, the 100,000ers and above. They don't, Bruce is one of the ascended into the godness of YouTube. He's got his multiple play buttons for his 18 channels now, isn't it, Bruce?
Yeah, actually, no, even I don't count it anymore. It's the PewDiePies, and they're putting mainstream content up there. They're replaying the late night shows and everything. They want to be another Netflix.
Yeah.
And the problem they've got is I think that they are just finding it too difficult to deal with the controversy and all the new rules and regulations regarding curating content and things, because it just takes one person to upload a bad video and then they're on the line, they've got to do something, and there's just too much overhead in managing user-generated content for YouTube. So I think we may end up with a fragmentation of it, and we've got 4chan for Ian's videos, and we'll have different sectors popping up, special interest groups popping up, where you'll have all these different sites that are hosting specific types of content, and YouTube will try and go on the Netflix way, because they're already pushing this YouTube Premium, and they've been trying to push that by just ramping up the ad volume, and people are getting forced to make a decision. But I think the decision they'll make is that they'll just go to, because I must admit myself, I've thought of setting up not an alternative to YouTube, but a video hosting site for RC model videos, so that people can post content there without all the hassles and worrying about whether they're going to have stuff demonetized or have their channels shut down and things. So there is, you got Float Plane run by, what's his name? The Canadian
Linus.
guy. Yeah. But that's been a bit of a failure because it's closed door. You go there, you can't see anything. It's
you
behind
can't get on
firewall.
it. You can't get on. I sent them an email. I thought, let's see what they say. Do you know what I mean? I just sent them an email saying, and they're not interested. They're very much looking for specific people of specific types. And it's funny you say that. If you look at, it's funny, I've been following the computer side of things a bit more recently, and everyone's making programs. This stuff is 20-minute TV shows. A lot of this stuff, it's not YouTube videos anymore. I'm sitting here watching what I used to watch on TV 3-4 years ago, and I think that, as you say, that's the route YouTube is going. How long us will get, I don't know. Whether YouTube at some point will decide we're more hassle than we solve. As Bruce says, we are a liability in their eyes, because we're not a corporation, we're not a big entity. Bruce, look, you've only got to watch Bruce's videos for the last month and you'll understand the problems.
That's exactly.
But you know what I mean, we're not a big corporate entity they can muscle over the table or do a deal with. We are, you're already seeing it actually with who's the podcasting guy who signed to
Joe Rogan or something.
Joe Rogan. All of that hoo-ha around that, with Spotify, and is it Spotify he signed? Yeah, it was Spotify. I think he signed with, wasn't it? So I don't know. We're gonna have to see.
For Spotify.
Yeah. Also, they're in such a state of disarray. I mean, they shadow banned PewDiePie for a week. The biggest person on the platform, they shadow banned him. Oh, it was just a mistake. Everything's just a mistake. But I wouldn't be surprised to see that level of monetization, that bar raised significantly, because the little minnows and fish at the bottom of the pool in the monetization pool, they're just more hassle than they're worth. And when they repurpose mainstream media content, it's already been approved by the FCC, so they don't have to worry about whether it's offending anybody or if it's going to create legal problems. So they just want to take all that stuff and throw it up there and become the poor man's cable TV.
It's interesting though that there still isn't an alternative really. There's lots of little players. I conned Gary into joining that one, which I can never remember the name of. Library or what's it now? Something else. Yeah. But the thing is, that's what I think, they're trying to be the new YouTube. There won't be a new YouTube, but there could be an RC Video Tube or a Pony Tube or whatever. Yeah, Bruce Tube. Well, no, wouldn't go that far. But just special interest, vertical platforms designed for just one specific interest. And there'll be more than just a video platform, because what I was thinking was, okay, you make a platform where you can, forums and videos and tutorials and podcasts and live streams, but it's all on the one piece of subject matter. So you can go there, you can go down that rabbit hole, and that's where you get people. And then you can have very well targeted advertising, because people know people going on that vertical platform are all interested in their products if they're selling aligned products. So it makes it easier to sell advertising. It makes it easier to curate your content. And if you're doing something with RC models, you don't have to worry about people posting things that are offensive, because they're not going to do that. It's pretty easy, much easier, lower overhead to curate it. So I think that's where the future is. Is that not though RC Groups? If you look at what RC Groups was, Bruce, you know what I mean, in the good days when it was at its peak.
Good days, yeah.
I know Jim a little bit. I don't know him particularly well. I know, it was sold 3 years ago now.
Was it?
Yeah, I think it was 3 years ago.
The problem with RC Groups, though, RC Groups is worse than YouTube, because you get banned and you get whatever. It's so partisan in terms of aligned with sponsors and things, and so it didn't have the freedoms. You still could have the freedoms. That's what took people to YouTube. It was you posting videos. It wasn't someone telling you what you can and can't do. And there has to be the same level of freedom. That's why the vertical model is better, because you can give people total freedom as long as they stay aligned with the subject material that platform focuses on. So you won't have people doing political videos and things. You just have them doing model videos, and you have to be non-partisan. You can't align yourself commercially. Sponsorships have to be declared list. You can set it up quite easily, and also because it's a smaller market, you don't need all the infrastructure that's required to make a general video serving platform. You can do it with a Raspberry Pi on the side of your bed for £4 million, just like the CAA's registration system.
Well, now we can use the Pi 400 on the side.
Yes. Isn't that great?
I think it's wonderful. I think it's.
Yeah.
I want one. I think it's a wonderful thing. I want 20 for my classroom. It solves so many problems for schools, for low cost computing, for children locked down in England, not in Wales, because they'll be skipping along in the mountainsides with the lambs.
Or the killer lambs, the tactical lambs. But the thing that I find is probably going to be what we're going to see is, and it's already out there, software so you can use your cell phone as a screen for that. So everyone's got a mobile phone, and you run a little app, and that's your screen, because it's not really portable without a screen. And a lot of people, if you've got 3 kids in a household, they've all got phones, but there's only one TV set. That's the way that you'll use that.
Well, it is exactly back to the 80s problem, isn't it? Of, well, we can't watch telly because someone's playing on a computer, or you can't use a computer because you need the telly. But yeah, there's loads of monitors about in the world. So I should think, well, look, Mark's got one in the. Oh no, it's not a monitor, is it? It's a whole Mac. But
it doesn't have HDMI, does it though? All the old ones have got VGA and composite and things like that. Not a lot of the older ones have got HDMI. That's the thing that's, I've got a lot of spare monitors around here, but they're all DisplayPort, or they don't have HDMI connections on, so I can't use them.
Rev B's right. They have reinvented the Sinclair Spectrum to an extent, but I mean, it's good enough if you just want to do stuff at a very low cost. I mean,
I use one here. I do a lot of my just online stuff with the Raspberry Pi 4. It's only the 4 gig model, the one they're putting in the Pi 400, and it's great. I wouldn't know the difference between that and my regular PC when I'm doing web-based stuff and LibreOffice and all those things. It is just so practical. It's just to think it's a single board computer. It devalues its actual real value because it performs like a desktop of just a few years ago.
I use cassette tapes. I'm really gutted no one's brought cassette tapes back for Spectrum.
Man, when I started, I had paper tapes. I had 110 board paper tape reader, mate. That was the way to go when I started. I'm old.
I actually found a mini disc the other week, and that didn't live long, did it? Mini disc.
No.
I found one of them the other day.
Too proprietary. Sony made a mistake.
Sony.
Was that what it was? Okay,
it's like DAT.
Always Sony, yeah.
DAT tapes were the same. When they put out DAT audio, that was going to be the big future. Nah, that didn't work either.
I even had laser discs.
Yes, those as well.
Do you notice how underwhelmed we are by that?
It's time for us to we should steer this back onto topic. And Louis coming back with all his gear. Will you get your gear out of Brazil now without any hassles, Louis?
I sincerely hope so. Because everything has been officially handled up to now. So no reasons to not believe that they won't be released by customs either way, either inside or outside.
I am aware of something that has been shipped by a project to somewhere in Africa this week, and they just went ahead and shipped it, not realizing from the USA, not realizing that if you don't pre-book it into this country in Africa that it's going, they demand a 60% instant fine of the value of the thing. So you've got to be so careful with the shipping. And my dear chum, who I fly a lot with, sent a machine up to Uganda in a baby shark. In that baby shark box, it comes, a very fancy big box, and they decided they were interested in what it is, so they broke open the locks on it to have a look, and then charged him $1,000 for the privilege of breaking the locks on his thing. So moving gear around, where I'm trying to go with this, it is a huge problem, and people don't factor it into their costs. Realistically, well, you might, Louis, but a lot of people don't realise quite what's in store for them. Oh, we'll just send that over there. We'll put it on the plane. Everything will be all right. No, it won't.
No, it
And
won't.
that's why the Mavic Mini 2 in your hand carry-on luggage is the future of drone inspection.
Yeah.
Try to enter a northern Arab country with your Mavic 2 in your hand, and you might get without the Mavic and the hand, because it will be considered a spy tool, so you'll get twice the penalty. Yeah. Now,
Okay.
different countries are very weird requirements, so it's a big hassle.
It does amaze me when you see on like Facebook or social media, if you like, people going, "Oh, I want to take my Mavic 2 Pro to like a Middle Eastern country," and you're going, "Why would you even think that's a good idea? What part of your brain cell went, oh, I'll take this to Egypt, or I'll take this to Saudi or somewhere"? What part of your brain thought that was a good idea? When you see in the news, even if you look at someone wrong, you can go to jail. Yet you want to take a drone there? Oh.
See, that's where Nicola's got it sorted. He just flies there from home.
Yeah. Just fly into the country next door and fly it over the border.
Sometimes it might work, except if the country next door is at war. And you get your drone shot mid-air.
Yeah, I'd like to see them shoot it down from 3 kilometers out. When even the
Spoken
radar
like a
can't
true
pick it up.
U2 pilot.
Well, normal radar won't see
It's
one.
a really
Yeah.
delicate process these days, and not only the drones, the batteries are completely. It's a challenge on their own to move the batteries.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
since three-letter word manufacturer decided to have larger than 100 watt-hours batteries. Come on, guys, how can you be so dumb? But stop moaning.
Yes, you got to get out still.
Yeah, that's Mark's job.
It is Mark's job, yeah. But it's
Yes. It's been a quiet week, isn't it? Overall, really, it's not a lot going on.
Well, Guy Fawkes tomorrow. Won't be quiet tomorrow.
I
Around here.
have seen something about some old guy talking about the CAA a little bit less, Gary, as well.
Yeah, apparently he's on better terms with them in his new secret location. In fact, what is the current status, Bruce? Where are we at today?
Well, after seeing that tweet that it's all about the public interest and the risk involved, well, I will be operating in the public interest and my flights will be low risk. So I see no future problems if that is the case. And it's been said, so I will hold them to that.
But the problem still, bottom line, is that somebody can make malicious complaints and they start the process. That's still the problem, regardless of... And how do they pull that out of the system? How do they stop that or censure that person?
Well, that's why they have to. I'm talking to the new minister. I've tried to get an arrangement to talk to the new Minister of Transport, and I'm going to say that you cannot allow that. They have the anonymous complaints thing with manned aviation because they want to make sure that any risky thing is reported without the repercussions things. But for unmanned aircraft, there should be no anonymous complaining. Sure, you don't necessarily have to tell the person complained about who made the complaint, but you should only accept complaints that come with identification, so you can avoid the vexatious complaint thing. And that's all they have to do is change the system to do that. So if they've got a vexatious complainant, they can then say, well, I'm sorry, but you're just pissing us off and wasting our time, so we're not listening. And that's the only way they can do it. So I'm going to talk to the minister about that, because as we've seen, CAA do not have the resources or the money to continue with the system they've got. So I'm just going to save them money.
But it's that vexatious complainant that really should be in the neck, should be in the noose for the costs that CAA have incurred.
Well, they should, it's a case of if it is a vexatious complainant, they can just simply triage those and say, I'm sorry, but you complained, and just ignore those complaints. And if the person does continue, there's actually an offence, I think, related to making vexatious complaints. They can charge them with that. And that might make them, certainly anyone who's doing that will think twice about doing it again.
Well, that's that whole freedom of speech thing, isn't it? It's, you can't just go around screaming fire. That isn't freedom of speech. It's it's the same sort of thing, isn't it? You can't.
I think the CAA didn't. I don't think the CAA spent too much time and money on Bruce's. So they just went copy paste, and then.
Yeah, that was in the end. That they finally did the copy paste, but to get to that point, they must have spent a lot of time and money because, well, they had to violate 100 people's privacy in the process. So that takes time. You can't do that overnight, and they're complaining they don't have money. There's a news media report saying CAA is running out of money because there's no passenger levies. They need more funding to keep going. Well, just use what you got a little more efficiently.
Or do we really need them? Are they fit for purpose in this modern digital sky? Are they fit for purpose? One has to wonder. Right, what else do we see? What else do we see, gentlemen? Because we could have a traditionally short. Oh, hello, he's got a bit of paper.
I have. I had to run downstairs to get this and print it off. So in the UK, I'm registered with one of the local airports. And I'm out of breath. Basically, South Yorkshire Police are asking all drone users that are commercial to get in touch with them. They've had a couple of people flying, and they're going, "Oh, please tell us if you're flying, so we don't have to send anyone out." And it's all right. If you think that's bad now, they have no idea what pain they are in for come January the 1st next year, when anyone will be able to fly in their back garden. Because if they're worried about a few now, they don't get what's about to happen to them. I think it's just a quick little email. So basically, if you're going to fly your aircraft anywhere in South Yorkshire, please inform the airport policing group of your intended flight in advance. And it's giving your contact details. Please use the following email and phone number. And I saw this and I just went like that, and I went, yeah, that was my answer.
Who are what was the name of that group again? The airport. Who is that? Who is this group? Airport Policing Group. You've crumpled it up now.
It didn't go very far. So it was just the South Yorkshire. So it's the South Yorkshire Police. It's the Airport Policing Group.
Couldn't we have the policing group, and couldn't we ask the police very nicely to inform us in writing and by email every time they intend going to chase someone down the road?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's because there was a football match delayed because of a drone flight. But, this sort of thing is only hitting a small group of users, and we're the ones that are registered with the airport. And of course, you tell an airport if you're flying in the flight restriction zone or want to, you go and get permission. But I'm not going to do this for flying anywhere in South Yorkshire.
But it sounds to me like it's their their opening gambit for saying, "Oh, we really do need remote ID." Wouldn't it be a lot easier if we had remote ID? You wouldn't need to do this every time then.
I don't think that's going to be the reason. I'm expecting another Gatwick for that, to be honest.
Oh, other Ian's got quite a few. His FOA requests are because Louis is here, so we must be talking about that. He's finding quite a bit of stuff out of his FOA requests now. It is as scandalous as we all thought it was.
It's looking horrendous because the kicker was whoever was in charge of Gatwick. If they're told there's a drone in the air, the problem is they then have to kind of prove if it was or wasn't a friendly drone. And their mistake was assuming that this drone was flying 24/7. Because it can't do it. And then for 3 days, please, whoever was in charge should just be taken outside and slapped with a big wet fish.
Well, yes, that's the ultimate.
They might enjoy
the ultimate
that.
censure. I believe that's on Ian's other channel. That sort of thing.
Yeah. And then I've actually done my GVC, so I now have my GVC.
What's the colourful bit? Is that like an advert on the side of it?
Which bit? This bit here,
underneath the CAA logo. Yeah.
Oh, that's in there goes the RAE you took the course with. So what your RAE is, they'll have the company logo, because you also get this as a credit card size thing as well. So you can, but this is the A4 size. And it tells me that I can fly in the specific category of the new YASA rules. And I can fly fixed wing and multi-rotor. Me and John at Sky, we go and examine each other, and we're not
Well, again, stuff on Ian's channel, but yeah, moving on. Yeah.
Well, we don't get when it comes to that kind of stuff, we're a bit unfriendly with each other and we push each other. You know what I mean? Because you've got to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've got to play a few naughties on each other. So and we were flying ATI like in 15 mile an hour winds and stuff like that. My old DJI F550. Just because it's like, right, okay, if we're doing this, we're not going to use an easy aircraft to fly. We're not doing that. We're going to pick something that's a bit more awkward. So we were pushing each other. And then the A2 certificates that people will be getting now are here. Now, what was interesting is on this, it tells you about the 2 aircraft weights, but then there's in part C, it says in the specific category, so the GVC is specific. So in the specific category, if the associated operational authorization explicitly states that the A2 C of C is the level of competence required.
Say that again.
Yeah, read that again.
In the specific category, if the associated operational authorization explicitly states that the A2 C of C is the level of competence required.
For what? What's this for, Mark? Okay, well, so because specific is. Well, I had to go a sec. Sorry.
Sorry. So the specific, you would think is the GVC.
Well, yes, the specific is outside of A1, A2, A3. So as you say, so why are they saying that the CFC is specific? The CFC is outside of specific. The specific category is for aircraft that don't comply with A1, A2, or C1, C2, or C3, or you can't fly within categories A1, A2, A3. Right? Okay. So if you're within specific, technically, there's the competency requirements would be to have a GVC to operate commercially.
Yeah, it's a curveball, and I only spotted this the other day, and I was like, "What are they talking about?" And I am wondering if it's for anyone that's like going to have a GVC operational authorization or the PSO, if you like. You could literally put into your operations manual that you can fly C1 and C2 aircraft into your operational authorization at these distances. You can do follow me, you can do all that. I'm just wondering if it's for big business, because even big businesses, if you've got an A2, they are going to want to see that in an operations manual of some kind. Do you know what I mean?
The CFC is going to allow you to fly an aircraft in the A2 category up to 4 kilos with all of the newer privileges, more than I can do today, basically. So if you're in specific, your aircraft is what pushes you into specific, or your operation type doesn't fall within the framework of what the A1 to A3 has allowed. So what they're saying is, what does the wording say again? Just so I know.
So it says C. So it basically says the holder is competent to act as a remote pilot.
Yeah.
In the so, and then it says number C is in the specific category. GVC, for example, there was some questions today on Facebook, and basically this GVC you can fly now above 400 feet if you are next to a tall structure. So let's say you're doing a wind turbine.
Oh yeah.
In the UK, you're going to be able to go up to 600, 800 feet, doesn't matter. You can then go above it by 15 meters, and as long as you're always within 50 meters of the structure, so the blade tips, however far out they are, as long as you stay within that envelope, you don't need the operational safety case to allow you to fly higher. You can just do a GVC now and it'll allow you to fly higher in standard.
The GVC will give you that permission. So
Yes.
we have, so PFCOs won't have that permission, but GVC holders will.
That'll be interesting to see how they do that with the renewals. So a PFCO holder can only fly a 20 kilo aircraft.
Yes.
The GVC is meant to be 25.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be interesting when we start seeing renewals coming in the new year. So sort of end of January, I would say sort of February, those renewals will be interesting to see, what weight limits they're getting, if it's upped by 5 kilos or not.
Yeah.
I think that would be interesting.
Nonsense abounds all over the place, doesn't it?
But
I think
also
everywhere nonsense abounds. I think we have probably run out of stuff to talk about this week because we're talking about paperwork. So before we get OCC,
we lost Louis now.
I think the clues are all there, aren't they? The clues are all there. Oh, here he is. He's back again. Poor old Louis.
I thought his door had been kicked in.
His door, yes, he's been talking
He's been
about
kidnapped. He's got to get kidnapped at least once before he goes home.
Imagine being in Brazil for a month and not getting a single flight done. I can imagine it. I can, because that's the way Africa works to a large extent. But
he gets.
I bet he's got a good suntan now.
The beach.
Oh yes, yeah. Hotels are okay for a while, aren't they? But
this week I've seen, obviously frostbite, no, shark bite. We'll get there in the end, Bruce. This is what happens when the companies can't decide what they're going to call a product, isn't it? Sharkbite has been landing in the hands of its first owners. There's 1 or 2 in the UK. One of my fantastic subscribers bought 2 and has offered to send me one to have a play with. So I'm hopefully going to have my hands on it by the end of the week. I probably won't be out and out flying it in the sense of I'm not going to put it into a mini quad because it's not mine. It does have to go back. It's a short-term loan, but I will take it for a spin and I'll post some initial thoughts on it. The initial reports, I've seen 1 or 2 air units burning out on the deck, which is a bit concerning. It still feels very alpha from the air unit point of view. I believe the goggles module is a lot better, but the air unit side is still very, very alpha. The Whoop, they've got a small 20 by 20 board, which is going down like a storm. People really like that for the Whoop size aircraft. I don't know if you're getting that one, Bruce, or the stand. You're not sure, I think you said yourself.
I'm not sure. It'll probably be out of date by the time I get it anyway. Thanks,
think
Swiss Post.
Ian should be doing the lamb cam in the current situation.
We'll be standing on the bridge, live streaming from the Severn Bridge, where there is some
He
irony.
He could be the new Joshua Bardwell.
Well, yeah.
We'll be live streaming the assault on the English from the Severn crossing. There is some irony that we take the tolls away, and now we want to decide to keep the English out. There is some irony to that. No, that there's some stuff circulating, obviously on the Mavic Mini 2 that appears to be coming. Well, we know it's coming. People own it.
Yeah. I'm going across the GVC one for Mark, perhaps.
It's not been said, is it?
No, it's not been set yet, but it lasts 5 years. So from the date of your flight test, your GVC is then valid for 5 years, not from your exam. So the A2 CFC starts from the date of your exam, even if you can't use it. So, you take it now, you can't use it till January, if that's then or pushed back. I mean, some people got it last year, April, and they still can't use the A2 CFC. There are people out there that have lost 9 months. I'm not kidding. Luckily, not from us, not from Sky. So the GVC, it'll last 5 years. So it's about £100 a year if you like to break it down. If you said you pay like £500, it's £100 a year if you like to use it.
But we don't know there's not something from the CAA in this, do we yet? Because obviously the PFCO, we've got a renewal once a year, and I wouldn't be shocked if they wind something into this.
I reckon it'll stay the same. I think it'll be 250 for the initial application, and then like 190 to 200 for the renewal every year. I think that's what will happen.
According to the EASA rules, there will be no distinction between commercial and non-commercial pilots.
Correct.
So, isn't that?
So the way what they're saying is, if they've taken away the bit in the UK where they say you have to have a CA permission to get paid money. It's what the GVC allows you to do, and the A2 allow you to do now, and if a hobbyist allowed to do. So a hobbyist isn't allowed near uninvolved people. It's 150 meters horizontal separation. So that is quite a long way. And if you think of that, then if it's your aircraft is surrounded 150 meters in all directions.
Yeah, but the question is, if you get to the specific, your operation requires the specific category, still there is no distinction between hobbyists and professionals.
No.
So,
no, specific is purely the aircraft type or operation type that doesn't fall in with the other classes. You know, as Mark said just now, there's no distinction on commercial operation. But if you look at A3, is basically what you have today as a hobby user for the most part, isn't it, Mark? It's very similar. You know, you can't fly in congested, you can't fly close to people.
At least in Portugal, I know that when you take the A1, you'll also be granted the A3. So it's only a matter of a few different questions. So that is going to the EASA transitional periods. So you get A1 and A3 at the same time.
Well, that's kind of interesting because the A3 is the hobbyist open category, and that's 150 meters horizontal separation. Where the A1, the only rule there is if your aircraft's the right weight in the transition period, you can take off next to a road. You can take off in your back garden.
Yeah.
But it is about aircraft weight. So with the GVC, for example, I can overfly in the city. So I can literally take off, and it's a bubble around it's a bubble around the building, but we say aircraft because it's easier for everyone. I can literally take off from my back garden or from a takeoff landing area. I could fly over the city and come back, where a hobbyist will never be able to do that without a GVC.
So which license should we get to Bruce?
For Bruce, well, he doesn't. Well, Bruce only flies this big, doesn't he? So he only flies stuff that's sub 250. So he's going to be really happy.
6-inch quads.
Yeah,
that's what I tell my wife.
Yeah. So anything
did you say
250 grams? You know, just crack on because that's C0.
So we should say that for Bruce, the appropriate license is the Toys R Us customer card.
Toys R Us one.
But it is the future. It is the future of the hobby, and if not to the commercial operators, for all the reasons we've stated. You don't need 100 watt-hour batteries for a Mavic Mini 2.
This is true.
Yeah. Peanut scale for the win. Who would have thought back in the 70s? But of course the aviation authorities didn't think that the technology would ever get good enough to make that a place where
Gary, the guys at the aviation authority know as much as we know, at least that, and perhaps know a little more. So let's give them some credit. I'm sure there are smart people at several aviation authorities, not from all south of Ecuador countries, like someone that we know and that has been properly criticized. But I give big credits to a lot of people that are working on some civil that we cannot know.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
The problem is they've got 600. They've actually discovered there's 650 standards to go through for drones. And
Yeah.
Is that all?
this down. That's ridiculous.
And rising by the moment. By the moment.
And, you know, we're going to end up at some point where even if you offer a mapping service, you will have to be certified in some flipping way to say you've passed course X. You know, that someone's going to come up with a course where it goes, oh, you do volumetrics. Oh, you've got to have passed course X. And if anyone doesn't think this will not happen, they're very mistaken. You know, we recently had a BSI and an RPAS survey, and, you know, they rung me afterwards and they, you know, spoke to me and stuff. And the minefield is out there. What's going on in the background is a little bit scary, to be fair.
Yet in the USA, you can grab your paraglider and take off without any rules of registration, whatever.
But
You
Mark,
can in England.
we already have that today on the wind turbine inspections. Sometimes we get asked to have work at heights certification. And I go bananas because the only guy that is working at height.
I've actually heard this as well, Louis, from a few of my contacts. I did ask a few of my contacts, and they went, no, they asked for working at heights, and they don't get it. They just don't understand that you're here on the ground.
Yeah.
The drone's up there. Why do you need working at heights? And they go, well, if it gets stuck on the turbine, it won't. It'll do one or two things. It'll either fly and complete the job, or it'll fall out the sky. And trust me, whatever it hits, it will bounce off.
Then burn it.
Well, it'll go in the sea, so it doesn't really matter. It's just going to go. You know, you put these little inflatable buoy things on them so you can find it and get it out of the sea, because they like that. If you say, oh, I can find it because it's got a little inflatable buoy thing, so we can find it when it falls in the sea, they're happy.
No, it's not a little buoy too, because on some locations, the buoy must be enough to keep the drone floating.
Yeah.
So, and that is, I can tell you exactly why. It's because they don't want any pollution in the sea caused by the drone.
Yeah. Which is fair enough.
No, because the guys are heavily fined if there is debris or stuff like that in the sea around. They get heavy.
Have you seen what comes out of those cruise liners?
Yeah. With the absolute worst type of diesel fuel oil known to man, isn't it? And those things.
Oh,
The very worst fuel.
As a former marine engineer, sorry guys, we do our best.
Not good enough, Louis. I'm sorry.
Mark, just a question, obviously, for the
we
commercial.
comply. No, sorry. If you don't comply with international regulations, in some of world sports, you can get the jail time for that. So we really do it by the book.
Mark, I was just going to ask, the CAA published an update to the abbreviations list about 3 weeks ago, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
How does that affect? So people with their ops manuals, is that something they need to update or not? Because I'm just looking at this now on the CAA site. And
I recommend that you do it as an amendment. So you'll just look at your whatever you've put down, compare it to their list, change accordingly.
So you're changing what they've labeled things as. You wouldn't just take the list and use the list. You're just suggesting operators update the manual to reflect the change. Is there any specific? Because someone online, someone said there's been one or two little changes that'll catch people out, and I'm trying to see what they are, basically.
I've to be honest, I'm guilty. I know it came out. I had a quick browse through it, but I've not done mine yet. I'm guilty as many people. I've not yet gone through and gone, right, this is what I've said in my ops manual as my terminology, and looked at that and compared across. But at some point, you know, it's the plan to do during lockdown, to be honest.
You've got some time to do it now.
Yeah.
What would happen if every licensed pilot in UK would resubmit all the operational manuals to CAA? So that's a good way of getting rid of the operation manuals. Resubmit them all, just because one comma has changed on the manual.
Well, thankfully, we don't have to, Louis. What happens is it's every year, so it's just once a year when your renewal comes up. Up to 90 days before that, you can submit your manual and pay your money, and then they work on it and they send it back and they say yes or no. And if they say no, you make a few changes.
I think with the new regulations, a lot of things are going up, but I don't know, because as you guys are living with a Brexit, so you can come up with some great and improved ideas regarding this.
Well, we get our new CAP 722 at the end of November, beginning of December. We're due our new CAP 722. So we'll see where that lands. That'll be the interesting one for all of us. That will tell us exactly, that'll lay the land for quite a while then, I think. And that'll give us a good idea what's going on. We just need it. We've been teaching the GBC, all the RAEs have. We're all teaching something. The A2CFC, we've been going off what CAP 7989 says, but CAP 722 will lay it out in black and white. Really, we should have had this months ago, but with COVID and everything else, of course, just delayed.
All right, gentlemen. Can anyone else think of any news? Going once, going twice. Dear viewer, thank you very much. It's been a slow week. I wonder if there's any big news events happening in the world that are making things slow down.
We should have worn Stars and Stripes tonight, shouldn't we? Waving the flags to our American friends.
I think we know why it's been a slow week. We look forward to seeing you again this time next week, 2100 GMT. Much easier if you just keep it in GMT. And don't forget that sometime during the day we'll have little 3-minute news updates. Thank you very much. Be safe, wear a mask, wash your hands, stay away from people, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody. Cheers for now. Bye-bye. Thanks, chaps. 2 buttons.